All right, let's jump right into this explainer by putting ourselves in the shoes of a 26-year-old woman named Carrie Rawson. Picture this. It's a snowy day in Michigan, February 2005. Carrie's just staying indoors, totally fed up with the freezing weather, and trying to get some rest. But outside her apartment, there's this strange car that's been parked there for a while. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Remembering what her dad taught her about stranger danger, she just cracks the door open, keeping her foot firmly behind it. The man outside, he says he needs to ask her a few questions. So what happens next? Well, it's the exact moment that literally shatters Carrie's reality forever. The man standing at the door is from the FBI, and he's there to deliver news that is, quite frankly, impossible for her to process. He asks her if she's ever heard of a man who possesses this uncontrollable urge to murder, a man who has terrorized an entire region for decades. He looks at her and asks if she knows the name BTK. The FBI agent tells her point blank, "Ma'am, your dad is BTK, Dennis Rader." Just pause for a second and imagine the sheer breathtaking shock of that revelation. I mean, for 31 agonizing years, the police, the media, the entire public, they were all hunting for a monster, right? They were looking for this twisted, perverted outcast who was hiding in the shadows. But it turns out they were looking in the completely wrong place, because the monster wasn't hiding in the shadows at all. Now, what's absolutely wild about this is how perfectly normal his life looked on paper. Dennis Rader was 59 years old. He was married with 2 kids. The guy was the president of the Christ Lutheran Church. He was a Boy Scout leader. He was even the local compliance officer, the neighborhood dog catcher over in Park City. He was using his everyday, mundane family life as a literal shield to hide in plain sight. On the outside, he was the ultimate family man, which honestly makes the truth so much more terrifying. Part 1. The Reign of Terror. Let's rewind to 1974 in Wichita, Kansas. This was a quiet Midwestern city where people didn't even bother locking their doors. Dennis Rader had just lost a job he really loved at the Cessna Company, and his empty mind, as he put it, essentially became the devil's workshop. His dark thoughts morphed into reality with the brutal murders of the Otero family. He bound the parents and their 2 children with blind cords and clotheslines. The sheer brutality completely shocked the city. And to make sure absolutely everyone knew who was in charge, he gave himself a strict moniker. He actually demanded the media call him BTK, an acronym for his horrific methodology: bind, torture, and kill. When you look at the timeline of his crimes, it's completely erratic. He struck in 74, then again in 77. He terrorized the entire city, sending these taunting letters and poems to the police and news stations. But then, something strange happened. In 1979, on the exact night of his daughter Carrie's first birthday, he sent one final message, and then he just abruptly went silent. For decades, the killings seemingly stopped completely while he focused on his family and his career.
But before he disappeared into suburban life, he left us this massive clue about his psychological makeup, his insatiable ego. When police arrested 3 brothers for the Otero family murders, guys who falsely confessed to the crime, Rader just couldn't stand someone else getting the credit. Think about how absurd that is. He wrote a highly detailed letter to the Wichita Eagle newsroom out of pure, unadulterated jealousy, just to correct a false confession. He mocked the police and proved, with horrific accuracy, that he was the true killer. He absolutely craved the spotlight.
Which brings us to Part 2, the cat and mouse game. So for 25 whole years, BTK had basically faded into this terrifying local legend. But jumped to 2004, and a local news anchor casually mentions on air that the killer was forgotten, suggesting he was probably either dead or locked up in prison. Well, that reawakened his massive ego. He felt he had to prove he was still around, so he breaks a quarter-century of silence by sending a letter to a local newspaper. And inside that letter, the victim's driver's license and unpublished, horrific crime scene photos of his 8th victim, Vicky Weger, who he'd murdered back in 1986. The police and the media were absolutely stunned. The message was loud and clear: BTK is back. What followed was this bizarre, terrifying cat and mouse game. I mean, he reveled in the chaos. He sent a table of contents for a book he wanted to write called The BTK Story, mapping out chapters of his own crimes. He sent cryptic packages to KKTV. He even left a cereal box containing a tied-up Barbie doll at a rural stop sign out on Seneca Road. He was treating the entire massive investigation like a sick, twisted game.
dropping these bizarre clues just to prove he was always watching the news broadcasts and keeping tabs on the police. Part 3. The fatal floppy disk, or his digital downfall. You see, his arrogance ultimately overrode his intelligence, and it led to one of the most stunning blunders in true crime history. Tired of sending physical letters, BTK decided he wanted to start communicating via floppy disk. But, he was worried about being tracked, so, and you can't make this up, he actually sent a letter to the police asking them for technical advice. He wrote, "Be honest, if I send a floppy disk, will you catch me?" He told them to give him their answer by placing a coded ad in the newspaper. And this right here is where Detective Ken Londware pulled off an absolutely brilliant deception. He took out an ad in the newspaper the very next day, exactly as BTK requested, and simply printed, "Rex, it will be okay." They lied to a serial killer. They tricked him into believing that the disk was totally 100% untraceable. And incredibly, BTK fell for it hook, line, and sinker. He sent the floppy disk to a local TV station. And that one mistake directly led to his digital downfall. Step 1. The FBI immediately extracted the metadata hidden in the files on that floppy disk. Step 2, that data showed the document was last saved by a user named Dennis at the Christ Lutheran Church and a local public library. Well, a quick check revealed Dennis Rader was the church president. Step 3, to be absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt certain, police obtained a medical pap smear sample from his daughter Carrie's university health clinic. The DNA was a perfect familial match. After 31 agonizing years, they finally had their guy. Part 4, arresting BTK, the monster next door. So, February 2005 rolls around, and the task force sets a trap. They knew Rader drove home for lunch at the exact same time every single day. As he's driving, a swarm of police vehicles completely surrounds him. Officers rip him from his truck, throw him to the pavement, and slap the handcuffs on him. And as he is being arrested as one of the most prolific serial killers in American history, Rader looks up at the officer and says something incredibly bizarre and mundane. He asks, "Could you tell my wife I won't make it for lunch?" He was literally still playing the role of the everyday suburban husband, even as the mask was being ripped off. When investigators finally searched his seemingly normal family home, well, they found the absolute depths of his depravity hiding just behind closed doors. Right there in a hall closet, they found a kill kit ready for his next victim, complete with pre-tied ropes and a .32 pistol. Out in his shed, he kept his hidden trophies, victims' jewelry and underwear. And in his office, in a totally unlocked filing cabinet, he had thousands of meticulously organized, cross-referenced photographs of his crimes. And it actually gets even darker. During his interrogations, he revealed that he treated his murders like clerical work. He gave them code names. Project Dogside was Dolores Davis. Project Cookie was Maureen Hedge. He casually admitted to hiding Dolores Davis's body in the trunk of his family car, the exact same car he later gave to his daughter Carrie to drive to high school. And for Maureen Hedge, he actually brought her deceased body into his church, the very church where his family prayed every Sunday, just so he could take photographs. When he finally gave his 45-minute confession in court, that stark contrast became terrifyingly real. You have the suburban dad on one side, and on the other, a monster who bound, tortured, and murdered 10 people over 3 decades. Yet in court, he spoke with this calm, totally flat tone. He explained the horrific details of strangulation and torture the way an accountant might explain a spreadsheet to you. He felt absolutely no remorse. In fact, his only regret, as he told investigators, was that he didn't have time to kill more people because his family and church duties kept getting in the way. The BTK's case really forces us to confront this terrifying reality about human deception. For 31 years, the police were out there looking for a societal outcast, a monster hiding in the dark. But Rader proved that the ultimate disguise for evil is absolute normalcy. So I want to leave you with this to think about. If real monsters don't have horns, but instead wear suits, raise families, and go to church every Sunday, how well do you truly know the people around you?